We're now joined by Helen Junie, aka the Complaining Cow, giving us a guide. This is your name. I've not just given you that name. We should make that clear. Self-titled, the Complaining Cow. Very used to fighting for people's rights on a lot of different areas. Are there some similarities between complaining about something and asking for a pay rise?
I think there's some, but I think when it comes to complaining about your consumer rights and saying this is a broken kettle, you've sold me a broken kettle, I'm entitled to my money back, you're using that evidence and you're asserting yourself and saying, I am entitled to that, I'm legally entitled to that. Whereas with the pay rise, you still want to be taking your evidence, but you're not necessarily legally entitled to that. So there's a bit more negotiation and haggling.
And you have to work together the next day as well. If the deal goes wrong with the shop, that's it, you go and shop somewhere else.
Yeah.
A lot harder to shop for a new employer, isn't it?
It's a bit more emotional, where you can take emotion out of your complaining about consumer rights completely and utterly, but it's going to stay there when you're talking about your pay.
Well, you're going to take us through a step-by-step guide on how to get a successful pay rise. But let's talk to you guys first, because, I mean, Darren, you're a full-time stand-up comedian. How on earth do you ask for a pay rise? Do you ever?
No.
You don't?
You can't, because there's so many different independent promoters, and if I was to go, hey, you know this fee that you've been paying me for years, is there any chance I could get even like £10 more? They would just go, well, no, we'll just get one of the other 50 comedians we can get instead. And they're willing to take it for even less, because, especially in comedy, there's always people who want to get to that spot that you're in. So they're more than happy to find somebody else at your level, or they'll just get somebody who's working their way up and be like, oh, maybe you can fill this spot, and they're more than happy to take it. So, yeah, comedy money hasn't changed since the 90s. It's always been the same.
Well, you need a union.
I need a union.
And moved to Canada. Amanda, you've been on the other side of the counter, though. You were a manager for your estate agent.
Yes, I was a manager for many years, and I've actually encouraged people to ask for pay rises if I thought, I've had staff that have worked that extra hour in the night, got that extra sale in for the office, so, they brought business to the office.
You would tell them to, because that's what we expect from a manager necessarily.
And I would go to the directors and say, look, so-and-so's worked really hard and they're bringing business into our office.
Okay.
I think that should be reflected.
Can I ask what the directors would say when you would...
Well, they never like giving.
I guess
They never like giving money, do they?
her again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's promoting what someone is bringing into the business, and if they are generating income into your business, then they're worth that extra bit.
And also somebody knowing their own worth, and we're going to come to that in a second, Helen, the value of knowing your own worth. That just makes for a better employee, doesn't it? If someone knows what they have to offer and what's valued.
That's what makes the ship sail, doesn't it? Is happy employees.
Can I also say though, when you get a job, how long into a job should you ask for a pay rise? Because I feel like once you get your salary.
Listen, let's get straight on, because Helen, when is the right time? What's the timing of asking for a pay rise?
I think the reason we're quite careful about that, I would say at least a year. You've got to prove you what you're worth, as I say. But and I think you don't want to go in the middle of a project, because they're just going to turn around and say, well, let's see how you do in that project. You want to go right when you've made that sale. I've just brought in X thousands of pounds for you, so you've got that kind of stuff, that kind of evidence to say, this is what I'm worth to you, this is what I'm worth to the company. That's the time to...
And most companies work on a yearly sort of profit and loss thing, don't they? So then it's, when you've done your year's accounts and this gives me profit, what employees have brought money into that.
Yeah, and as a manager, how often would somebody be allowed to come back to you? Is it every year, or would you expect them to leave it a bit longer than that?
Oh no, listen, once they got their pay rise, that's it then, isn't it,
Don't bother me.
P45 or pay rise, no, I'm only joking.
Okay.
They sort of move up the ladder then, so if they'd had their pay rise, perhaps they could progress if they were just a negotiator to a lister to list houses, or,
They need to progress to the next level. Best way to do it? In person, via email? What's the best way to get your message across?
I'd say that's where the difference again for always complaining, because I was saying, you want it all in writing, but actually you really want to have that meeting with your manager to get that rapport going, because in an email it's very easy to say, nope, Whereas when you've got that conversation, you've booked a time with your manager that's good for them, you know you haven't gone into a meeting straight after they've come out of a horrible long meeting, so that you can actually book it for a good time when it's going to be suitable.
And of course, you need to be able to demonstrate that you've got something to offer, that you're taking it to the next level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can also ask for more responsibilities and say, you know, I'm open to more responsibilities. Can you set me some more goals? What would be good? You know, if they are looking like they're not going to give you that pay rise, actually, well, what can I do to actually enhance it in other ways?
And in terms of showing what you've done, like showing that you've done your homework, what do you need to bring to the table?
I'll bring facts and figures. So really spend that time, I think, looking at what you've brought to the company, so it's outcomes to them. They're going to be interested in what your outcomes are, not, you want to be saying that you're really loyal to the company, you really love your job. You want to be saying those kind of things because you want to say that you want to stay, that you want to progress, and this is how I've done a good job for you, and I'd like to progress and do even more for you.
The awkward thing can be trying to draw a comparison, isn't it, with like other people, not just in your workplace, but also in the industry as a whole. How do you say, look, I've got my eyes shut here, I can see what's going on around me and what people are getting, because people are quite secretive about what they are.
Yeah, I think if you can do a little bit of detective work and find out what colleagues are earning, who's doing the same job as you, and what are they earning? Is it a different, is there a gender gap there? Is there, is there something else going on? But also there are websites like Glassdoor and Total Jobs where you can actually look at the industry trends and see what people
What
are.
the value of that person, what the type is.
Can I also ask, how do you deal with a no? Like if they say no, like we're not, like what do you do then? Because I would hate that, because obviously it's my work, and if it's rejected me, is there like something that they should do?
Ask why. I would ask why.
Yeah.
And for them to put that in writing so that you've got that if you want to take it further, or if you want to go to their boss or whatever. But also, it's a case of turning it around and saying, okay, what are the reasons why not? And then try and address those. So if it's because you haven't done X, so okay, if I do X in the next 6 months, will I get a pay rise? It's because you haven't taken on these responsibilities. But if I take on these responsibilities, can I get a pay rise? It could also be that you don't just want a pay rise. It could be another kind of benefit. It could be, can I have Fridays off? Can I go early on a Friday? If it's actually the business hasn't got the money to be able to give you the pay rise, there might be other ways that don't cost them financially.
It's really interesting. I wonder, there should be in most responsible workplaces an appraisal system, a feedback system. That's going to be a great source of evidence as well, isn't it?
And that's the time to sort of do it as well, because that's going to usually be yearly. So, and a good company will have it embedded in that place.
And as you said, Helen, sometimes if the company hasn't got the money to give, then they can think, right, like I've done it, okay, finish early on a Friday, or, come in later on a Monday, or give an extra day, holiday a year or something like that to them.
I mean, this can be quite emotive, can't it? Because if you don't feel like you're being properly valued, you can get annoyed, you can get frustrated. Presumably, when you're approaching a meeting like this, you really need to put all that in the locker and just bring forward facts and evidence and keep the tone right.
I think that's in choosing the words carefully, rather than say, if you don't give me a pay rise, I'm going, because they might just call you bluff. That's not what I'm saying. Use the words about, I really like working here, I'm really loyal, and I'm a really good team member. It's not just about what you've done and the outcomes of the company, it's actually how you've helped somebody else and how you've joined as a team, because then actually they've got in their mind then, actually if we lose you, we've got to pay to advertise for a new role, we've also got to, you've got to induct them and all of those things, but also that team might work differently with somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's about sort of taking all of those things but using careful language.
Do you feel sometimes that bosses are worried about everybody finding out and then just getting loads of people coming demanding a pay rise?
Well, that could be a reason, but that's not really going to be a reason they're going to give you for not giving you one. They're just going to have to sort of have the best. But a good company will have a good open culture, and some do, some don't.
And they should be paying fairly. So, it shouldn't be a case of that it's gender discrimination or anything like that. A good company should be paying fairly anyway. So.
That, as much of that knowledge as you can garner, however you get it, is going to be useful, isn't it, going forward? Do you feel more powerful yet?
I do. I thought
You're ready to go for it?
All 50 different promoters and trying them out.
Maximo, send forward. Let us know how you get on. I want to know how Natalie has got on. Natalie, do you have a question for Helen? Is this something you're going through at the moment? Have you had successful, demands or asks for wage raises? What's happening with you?
Yeah, I've had success in it. When I first started in the construction industry last year, I got offered a certain amount of money, and I was happy with that, thinking that everything was okay. And then 2 new guys come on after me, and we were chatting, and I found out that they were on more money than me. So I was like, no, this isn't right. So I actually quizzed my line manager about this, and he said, oh, we will take it to his line manager, and I was fobbed off for about a month. And then when I kept going on at them about this, apparently I got told that I had to prove that I was worth the money that they were going to give me anyway. And in fact, I proved I was on sales, and I was taken on off my probation sooner than the 2 guys, and in fact the 2 guys got sacked. And then they did actually give me the same money as the guys. So yeah, I did ask for it, but yeah, it was wrong.
It just goes to show, actually you've shown your worth there, and you've managed to argue successfully, and it was just about sticking around as much as anything. Well, listen, thank you for getting in touch, Natalie. That's it for today, I'm afraid to say. Thank you to Helen for joining us. Great advice.